Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our show where we give you 2 to 3 tech stories of the week, something interesting and fun, show you a cool library tidbit, and get you on your way in about 20 minutes or so. Today, we have Miss Jasmin Springer from the Weston Library. How are you,
Hi,
Miss Jasmin?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
How are things out there?
Well, we're fine. We have patrons coming in, but not as much as before. But they use our computers. They've been checking out books. The checkouts have been very active. They come and
Good,
pick up
good,
their
good, good.
holds. Yeah,
And for anyone who doesn't know, the Weston Library down here in Weston, Florida, they're also a multi-use building. You guys have the college upstairs. Are they still doing college classes up there now? Have they resumed those yet?
yeah. I haven't seen them open in quite a while.
Yeah.
I know before we closed, they were mainly doing language classes up there,
Okay.
and
Yeah. So
most
that's
of the
probably
other
just something they
classes
haven't
were,
done in person yet. Yeah. But it's going to be
yeah,
good. And one other thing that the Weston Library has is that memory lab where people can
that's
come in and
right.
digitize their resources. So if you've got something at home that you want to see digitized, whether that's it's just flat items, photographs, things like that. There's a lot of things you got to really explore out at Western Library. They got some cool, fun stuff out there. Um, let's get our show started today. I'm going to share out our Google Chrome here, and Jasmine brought us this really fun story.
Hmm.
First one in the country. So Domino's is going to has started very soon, starting off with fully autonomous vehicles driving around delivering pizza, which I just think is awesome.
Yes, I think what a great idea. I think it's a really amazing technology. Honestly, like when I first thought about self-driving cars, the thought of it really terrified me. Just not understanding how the technology works. But reading the articles, I see that it's pretty sophisticated. I mean, they use radar, thermal imaging, they have 360-degree cameras, and sometimes remotely they have a person who will monitor the
Yeah.
car.
And this is the company. We talked about this a couple of months ago on the show. They
Hmm.
have up in the villages here in Florida, they have
Hmm.
automated vehicles driving around up in the villages. Now,
Oh,
those
okay.
automated vehicles still have a person in them as a emergency backup. And this is the
Hmm.
first time they're going to let things go out without a person in them at all. It's just going to be an individual car going out there that you go and type your stuff in. And if you thought, oh, you're going to be a gig worker and that's how your job's going to be or doing whatever, now you're going to replace the gig workers too. So it's going to be a really interesting future here going forward for us to see exactly where
Yeah.
these are going to happen.
I found it interesting in one of the articles I read that these Domino self-driving cars or vans, they only go 25 miles per hour. And I was watching some of the videos, and it seemed like the streets they were going down were kind of slower streets. I
Yeah, a
guess,
lot of them going through
because
neighborhoods and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, this is kind of still in the experimental stage, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And well, yeah, this is the very first one. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It's going to be interesting. One thing that I did want to bring up on today's show, there was a big news story about, and I'm not sure that they didn't seem to be very clear to me. And if I do this stuff
Hmm.
every day, all day long, I was like, wait a minute, let's try and make this a little bit clearer for people. So there was a new announced hack slash break for Internet of Things stuff. And it is something where people can break into the devices to do something. So wanted to point out that this is not something that you as a person at home have to worry about for the most part, because this is stuff that is built into scanners, medical scanners, and things that are in enterprise solutions. So these are not your typical light switches or light bulbs or anything that's at home. and this can be fixed. They already have a fix for it. So the news stories were kind of a little of a scare tactic thing on there, you know?
I see. Yes. Um, but so the main way to avoid these type of things, is it to update or upgrade your operating system or
Now,
upgrade your software?
yes, upgrading the software. It's called firmware, and it's all the stuff that's on your
Mm-hmm.
devices. And what I do for myself at home, I've got a little calendar thing for July 4th because I know I'm going to be off on
Oh,
July
okay.
4th.
Yeah, yeah.
And so a couple of days ahead of time, I go look and find out, okay, what's the website that I need to go to download the updates for my modem or my router or the light switches in my house. And
Mm-hmm.
so I go out and actively search for those. I always make sure my apps are
Right.
updated and all my Amazon devices automatically update on their own, which is a really nice feature they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point this out. This was a news story that seemed to hit every single news site. And it was like, wait a minute, this is like, you're just scaring people because it is a very scary thing if you're in a hospital and somebody breaks in and takes care of this. But that's a lot like a few years ago. I don't know if you probably didn't notice this one, Jasmine. There was a casino out in Las Vegas that got hacked, and
Oh no, I didn't hear
they
about that.
had all their customer data stolen because somebody broke
Uh-huh.
into their fish tank.
Oh
Because
wow.
the fish tank was connected to the internet so that they
Uh-huh.
could show off
Oh,
on a little webcam of their fish, and somebody hacked into that and broke into their security through their fish tank. So it was kind of
it's
funny
really
that way.
amazing how it's all connected, isn't it?
Yep. And
You
if we're
break
going to
into one
connect, you
thing.
got to be careful. You just got to take care of your stuff and do that.
Yeah. Well, also making sure, I think, strong passwords, and if there's a two-step login process to use that as well, to make sure you're
Yes. Yep.
extra secure. Because
Exactly. Just like you do with
I've read
all of those.
because I've read some really nightmarish hacking stories. Like there was one about a year ago, about a year ago, where a guy hacked into a Ring security camera that a parent or parents had installed in their daughter's bedroom, and
Yeah.
he traumatized the child. I mean, so it's real. Just and they said that could have been avoided if if they if they had uh, if they had opted for the two-step login process.
Yes,
But
exactly.
these companies
Yeah.
will say anything
Strong
too.
passwords, two-factor
Yes.
authentication if you can. It's a great thing. Just like you would treat everything, like you want to do, like somebody's going to be looking for you, make sure that you're taking care of that kind of stuff. There was another
Absolutely.
news story that didn't get as good a press conference this week that I really wish people would have. The FCC here in the United States put out a brand new testing app. And I know most people are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why do I need to test for the FCC? Here's part of the problem. In the United States, all of the internet service providers tell the FCC how fast their stuff is. And up
Mhm.
until this point, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, just takes their word for it and puts it into the database.
Mhm.
Not an ideal solution. So they
Right,
finally
right.
released a new app. There's one on iOS, one on Android. I'll show you the one here on Android because I could bring it up easy on our
Mhm.
screen. You can go download, install this app on your phone and do your own speed test. And the data goes right to the FCC to prove how fast are you getting your wireless speeds at your location of where you are. So you can test at home, you can test at work, you can test wherever you're going. Don't test while you're driving, please. Concentrate on the road. Um, but you can go out and test these things and make sure that you're getting the right stuff.
Now, I was wondering what the purpose of all of this was, and I read somewhere that the ultimate goal is to reach a better broadband performance, overall for everyone, and close the gap between the digital haves and the digital have-nots.
Exactly.
Um, and is it also just to keep these companies honest?
Yeah, yeah. A good chunk of it is making sure
Yeah.
people stay honest. and people are
Mhm.
paying attention to what's going on out there. And like you said, it's making sure that they know where the gaps are. Because we talk about it in
Mhm.
the libraries all the time, bridging the digital divide, trying to fulfill those, fill
Mhm.
those niches in for people. And if you don't
Right.
know where the niche is, if you don't know where the gap is, how do you go fix it? Um, a,
Exactly.
a great example right here in Broward County, up in Coral Springs,
Mhm.
where I live, in theory, everyone in the entire city should have access to high-speed internet. But we've got
Mhm.
this 1, 2 block area near the center of the city, an old section of the city, where there's no cable running to them.
Oh.
It's just this one
So,
little
yeah.
niche space where there's 2 apartment buildings that never got
Mhm.
wired up for fiber optic cable. And I'm like, this, if you didn't
Wow.
really pinpoint and drill down into things. So,
Right.
that the city is taking care of that now because it was pointed out to them.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
I know this is a voluntary thing, but I hope, a lot of people do this. But I
Yeah.
think also it's important to make people understand why it's so important to do this.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted to bring that up because this is something that the FCC is trying to get people to do to help out, and they didn't. And by the way, just in case you do have your complaints,
Hmm.
like I was mentioning there, you can go to their complaint center. They've got
Hmm.
consumercomplaints.fcc.gov,
Oh.
and you can go in and fill out exactly what your individual issue is in your area. As an example, if you are the fiber stops, 1 block over and it should be running all your way, you can go in and file a complaint, file something there so the FCC knows where people are in that. And don't worry, all these things will be up in the show notes for you guys when we post these out on Facebook and stuff. We always post all these links so you don't have to worry about that. Our final story today is also another security thing. Jasmin came to us with some awesome security stories. Clubhouse, and we've talked about Clubhouse data before. And if you don't know, Clubhouse is an app. It's iOS only, but it's
Hmm.
chatting. It's just doing voice chat instead of texting back and forth with each other. You're just doing um, you're in a room and there's a speaker and you raise your hand and he allows other different people to speak, he or she. So that's the generic of what
Yeah.
Clubhouse is. Have you tried Clubhouse at all
Right.
yet?
No, but I have heard from YouTube. I watch YouTubers or YouTube shows, and I've heard them talk about Clubhouse, and it's relatively new. And it sounds like where you go into different chat rooms, you can choose what kind of experience you want to have, and it's visual and it's audio, right? I think it's
Yeah,
visual too.
the visual is limited to being able to like raise your hand and seeing profiles of like
Oh,
there's a
okay.
profile picture, so there's no video being shown, not real.
Oh,
Excuse
okay.
me there. Um, there's no real video like we're doing right
Hmm.
now. It is though where you can change your profile picture really fast and do things. So
Right.
there's some people doing some interesting stuff like that. The
Well,
reason,
and I
yeah, Phil, go
Oh,
for it.
I was just going to say that I read that it became, even more popular last year because of the pandemic. People were just really starved for human interaction because they were
Yeah,
stuck inside, and
yeah,
this
and
was
that's
one
yeah.
way.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they got this newest quote unquote hack. And I wanted to bring this up again because we were talking about security for all these other ones. Clubhouse was not hacked. Nobody broke into their systems and stole anyone's data.
Mm-hmm.
However, yes, there is this huge database of users of 100 million people, or however many people. Let's see if I can come down and find it. If they actually had an
Was it five?
actual number.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't remember the number of
Yeah, I don't think
people.
they actually, yeah, they didn't
Yeah.
specify the full number. Um,
Mm-hmm.
However, it's all publicly accessible information. It's what's called
Right.
scraping. So somebody
Mm-hmm.
sent a little bot over the Clubhouse app and just took off all of the names, phone numbers, anything that people had posted there that was public information anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and just gathered it all into one spot.
Right. It said that it was posted to an online hacker forum.
Yeah. And the reason those do is because people are showing off their skills about, well, I can go gather this kind of information, or I can go do that.
Right.
The same thing with that LinkedIn thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's
Mhm.
that they just went in and took your public information and then gathered it all into one spot. So instead of having to go to LinkedIn and go from person to person to person, these various people are going in, and it's not so much hacking in a bad sense that they're trying to break your password, but they are
Right.
hackers in that they're trying to just gather information. And that's the reason I bring it up, is because we want people, like you said earlier, strong passwords and two-factor
Right.
authentication and knowing trusted sources. Because if I send
Mhm.
you this email, hey, Jasmine, I'm Bob from Chat House, and I'd like to hook up with you.
Right.
And here you can tell it's really me because here's your phone number and
Mhm.
here's your information that I know about you. And yeah, that, those kind of phishing emails and those kinds of attempts. And that's where people,
Mhm.
have a problem with their public information.
Now, wasn't Facebook? It was also recently hacked, where they did a similar thing. Not really hacked, but like you said, scraping, where they took public information. And I read somewhere it was like 533 accounts or something like that, or
Yeah.
something like that.
100
And
million accounts. Yeah.
yeah, and it was, and it said that it was a certain amount that was to buy a Telegram bot, which is
Yeah.
to help create spam.
Yep. And one of the funnier things out of that was it got Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, the guy who's founded it.
Hmm.
They found out that his phone number is there on Signal, one of their main competitors in messaging, that he uses their
Oh,
competitor to communicate back and forth. So that was an interesting little find that
interesting.
they had. Yeah, 533 million Facebook users that they got that time.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the whole wrap up of these three stories today about this is not to scare you, is not to the world's falling apart. It's just be careful.
Absolutely. Be very
You know,
careful out there.
just think about what you're doing and who you're telling it to, because in
Yes.
the past, when you shouted that kind of information out from your front porch, only your two neighbors heard you. Now, when you shout it out from your front porch, there's a 2 billion people out there that might be paying attention to you to find out exactly
Yes.
what's going on.
Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
you brought us the fun, cool library fact today, and that
Yes.
was the library's YouTube account. Tell us, what
That's
do you like
correct.
about this account?
Well, there's so many different types of videos on here, and the thing is, a lot of our patrons don't even know about this. I mean, they're aware of our live online programs, but these are recorded programs. And if you go to the playlist tab, it categorizes all the programs. You've got the Armchair Traveler, which is a great series of videos if you want to travel, and they do a really good job with this series. And it's just to help guide you through some of these places that you travel to. There's also a playlist for sensational story times, which are online story times, and we read portions of a storybook. And the really cool thing is the books that we use, you can find them on Hoopla, which is one of our online resources. It's for electronic books. And then we also, there's songs. I've done a couple of the sensational story times where I play my
Excellent.
pink guitar and read a
Nice.
story and I sing. Yeah, and there's great tutorials there how to use different online resources on the library's website. A coworker of mine did a great craft program on there on how to create tissue paper flowers. So, and there's also movie reviews and book reviews. So, check it out. I mean, some videos are better than others, but really check it out. It's worthwhile.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we've got hundreds of videos up there. And that's one of the things
Yes,
that this whole last year has really driven home to everybody is you're not going to be
yes,
able to get your information the old traditional ways, but the library is still going to get you the information somehow, some way. Just like if you would have come
absolutely.
in the past and taken one of my classes, we're now doing these here online for you. So yeah, it's definitely all of that. It's a
Yes,
great thing.
yes. So yeah, and please, all of you, come check out the library's webpage, and also, we have the calendar of events with all of the online programs you can register for.
Yeah,
So,
we do a lot of tremendous, a lot of things. Thank you so
yeah.
much, Miss Jasmine, for being here this
Oh,
week with us.
you're
What
welcome. My pleasure.
do you have anything? You said you already have a couple of story times up there on the YouTube channel, you said, which people are gonna have to go out and find now on there. You got anything else in the next few weeks?
You mean for myself? Um,
Yeah, what are you doing out there for you or out at the Western Branch? What's going on? What do you guys have coming up?
well, we're not a regional library, so we don't host as many online programs. I do want to do more sensational story times in the future. I have one librarian who helps host the weekly Spanish cafes,
Oh,
and
excellent.
sometimes the English cafes or the language classes. We have another librarian who helps host the chair yoga program, the weekly one. We had one this morning.
And we're still doing
Yes.
that online, folks. You can
That's
do
right.
yoga
It's
with the
all
library
online.
even from home.
Yeah.
So
And
come on
it's
and see us.
yes, and it's great. It's still great.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Jasmine. Remember, everybody, we're here every Thursday at 4 o'clock. Feel free to come on and join us. Creation Station at Broward.org. If you have any story ideas, if you want to see your favorite library or librarian featured one week, let me know. And I hope you learned something today. We'll see you next week.
Bye.